Hi, happy Friday. Welcome into the clock out. It is time for us to talk more about toxic workplaces, environments, and today we are talking about the get out, the get out stage, the get out version of this, okay? The get out version for Black women, okay? In the workplace. If you're new here, my name is Mercedes Swan. I am the Career Love Coach. I go live weekdays at 6 to talk about all things that impact Black women in career and business. Y'all had said that y'all wanted to talk about toxic work environments and really how that impacts us as Black women. And so that's what we're talking. Well, we've been talking about that all week, but today specifically, I am talking about the signs that you need to go ahead and exit that toxic work environment. So, if you've worked in a toxic work environment, this one is for you, okay? Because a lot of times as Black women, we will stay in a work environment that no longer serves us. That's really not where we should be in our careers. So we're going to talk about like a lot of the things that lead us to staying longer, some of the dynamics that is a very clear way of knowing it's your time to get out of there, girl. And I'm also going to talk about like some of the reasons and common, I think, like things that seem logical, but they're really not. They're based on kind of us looking at our career from a standpoint of lack. Or having limiting beliefs about our career. And that ultimately leads us to staying in careers and jobs and opportunities that no longer serve us. So that's what we're talking about today. So if you're new here, I'm trying to make sure that I'm live on TikTok. It's not showing it to me. But if you're here, just say hello in the comments. I would love to say hello to you while I try and get this going on the clock app. Because it might be like, girl, you're not really live. You think you're live. Okay, there we go. Hey, if I missed you joining on TikTok, welcome in. I could not see the live, so welcome. I'm super excited that you're here. Say hello in the comments. I'd love to greet you. Sorry, it's a little bit late. But yeah, so I see some of you are just joining now. Welcome in. Again, today we are talking about it is Get Out, the Black Woman at Work version, right? So we are talking about all about basically the environments that we face as Black women, when it's a sign, and reasons that we commonly stay. So if I called you out in this, it's okay. You can let me know in the comments. Hey, Monique, welcome into the live. So glad that you're here. Cute little waving. Hi. Okay. So before we get started, if you don't know me, my name is Mercedes Swan. I am the Career Love Coach. I have been a career coach since 2018. I recently exited my full-time job to be a full-time career coach. So it's been very exciting to be in this exciting space and energy where I can do the clock out every single week. So again, it is this stream that I have every single week at 6 where I'm really helping Black women clock out of the workplace, specifically important on a Friday, and clock into community, and also sharing like guidance and things that I've learned. And I'm ultimately here on a mission to support Black women who are growing their careers and their businesses and ultimately using that to create a lifestyle that we really love. So, hey girl, hey, say hello in the comments. Okay, so I'm first going to start off by talking about like some of those signs. So if you hear one of these signs, this is you're dealing with this, let me know in the comments. But one of the things that I think is very, it's a big sign of it's time to get out of that work environment is that there's stagnant growth. And sometimes that stagnant growth is very much, hey, Becky, welcome in. Sometimes that stagnant growth is very much like indicative of like a toxic environment when you're being passed over for promotions. But sometimes it is just a small organization, or they don't have high turnover. Or not, I shouldn't say high turnover. They don't have people moving around, turnover. And so there's no opportunities. And so that's one thing that I would say, right? Like, I think, we're in an environment right now where, like salaries are not increasing. There's lack of stability due to layoffs. And I think the longer that we're in these environments where we stay, like a lot of times we will stay because we think it's safer to stay than to move. But like there has been, I don't really think in this current context or environment, there's a lot of things that like indicate safety, whether or not you've been there for a long time, whether that organization has never had layoffs. But honestly, a lot of times how that stagnant growth impacts Black women is that we're often doing more, but we're not given the growth opportunities and there's no progression, there's also no pay, right? So a lot of things that I like try and like explain. Hey, Chrissy, welcome into the live. So a lot of the things that I try to really explain is that a lot of times when we're moving forward in our career, we want to take on more work, right? We want to have unique experiences, things that allow us to grow and learn so that we can move into another opportunity, right? So me doing things where I was leading a team or leading a team that didn't directly manage me, but I was doing things that enabled me to, things that really enabled me to just gain exposure to new things. Those were some of the things that helped me advance and grow up and get a promotion and grow up, grow in other organizations or that same organization. And so when we're in opportunities where we're not given ways to grow our skill set to learn new things, that's a challenge, right? That's often a sign that it's time for us to leave, particularly if we are not really connected. Like, we don't feel challenged at work. We kind of feel like it's the day to day. Now, I totally understand that there are lots of people that really, they like the day to day being the same. I'm not talking about the individuals that really enjoy that. I'm talking about people who kind of have a growth mindset. They want to look and do different things, right? And there's nothing wrong with either way, but I'm talking to my people, right? My people are the people who are looking to grow and be ambitious and do different and new things in their career that are exciting. And so your ability to really be able to learn and do new things in this environment, I think, is so important for you to be able to be successful and have a long-term career. And so when we're staying way longer than we should be in a particular career or a field, hey, Lucy, welcome in. It impacts us long-term, right? Again, the progression, the ability to grow, the titles, right? It's kind of that idea of like, oh, well, somebody's been in this individual contributor role for so long. I wonder why they haven't grown or moved into management, right? And if that's not your intention, that can ultimately hold back your career in the long run because people are kind of wondering why. And so if you're in an organization that's not willing to grow or develop you in that way so that you can move into those higher level roles, hey, Monica, welcome in. If you're not in that type of role where you're able to do that, then it means you're really stagnant in where you are in your career, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. So let me know in the comments, are you in a space in your career where you feel like it is, your career is stagnant? You're really not moving forward. You're not enjoying what you do. Those types of things. I would absolutely love to know. Okay. The next one is drained or gaslighting. So a lot of the times, like when we're in these negative work environments or working for a toxic supervisor, we often we don't realize how painful or how challenging that work environment is for us. And ultimately, over time, that kind of degrades our mindset. So for me, when I was in that type of environment, I began to really doubt my skills. I began to really doubt whether I was able to accomplish the things I wanted to in my career. There were really just a lot of things that were, it was just really challenging to see myself in a different light, from whether that was to get a promotion or that was even to leave the organization, right? And so really, the longer that we stay in those environments, particularly if they're gaslighting us into thinking, oh, we're under, hey, Denise, if we are, thanks for the likes. But yeah, if we're in a space where, people are not valuing us, we feel like we aren't given the recognition that we deserve. Hey, I saw the email. Thanks for joining the live and sharing. I did see your girls' DMs are backed up, but I will reach back out to you. Yeah. So yeah, in terms of that gaslighting, it ultimately kind of puts you in a space where, again, you start to doubt your skills. You do begin to doubt your abilities, and then you don't go for those growth opportunities. You don't look to leave, right? There's a lot of things that you do that hold back your growth and your progression, right? So if sometimes I will get the thing that's like, well, I don't really know if it's me. Yeah, microaggressions. Hey, Donica, welcome in. Yeah, we get lots of microaggressions, and I'm definitely talking about that too in the poor culture and leadership section that I'm going to talk about next, because absolutely those microaggressions absolutely do, again, make you doubt your skills and your abilities, and then therefore you're less likely to move forward. Thank you so much for the likes, Denise and Donica. I appreciate you all. Yeah, so as you're going through, right? So a couple of things is Black women will come to me and they'll be like, I don't know if it's really me. Like, is it me, Mercedes? Like, am I the problem? Am I causing these issues? Like, am I really underperforming? And so I feel like there's, it's really hard when you're in the environment, whether they're gaslighting you or they're not supporting you, or maybe they're not kind to you, or the microaggressions or whatever it is, and you're trying to really figure out like what's up and what's down. And so here are some of the things that I want you to ask yourself before you make a decision to say this is you, or this is the organization, or this is your supervisor. So the first one is that I want you to begin to understand goals. So there's goals for the organization, there's goals for your department, for your supervisor, for yourself, for your team. There's always goals that people have set, and there's expectations based on those. Sometimes in poor organizations, like, people are just not transparent about them, they don't share it, and so then that leaves Black women in the space of trying to figure it out. And because a lot of the times we don't have those resources, we don't have the support that we need to understand how to navigate those things, then we kind of just figure it out, or we have to figure it out, or sometimes we don't figure it out, or we don't know how to ask for the support that we need, because we just don't have the coaching or the mentorship in place, right? And so that's one of the things that really impacts us. And so sometimes it is true, not having those resources will lead you to not being able to perform in your job because you're not clear about the organization's goals, right? And so I do want to provide a balanced approach or evaluation to that, right? But if you say, no, I know what the organization's goals are, I know what they want, I know what they want to see from each person in the role, you're clear about that, then you're likely not the issue in this, right? Because a lot of times if we don't know those goals, we're chasing things or doing things that aren't aligned. And so, yeah. Okay, so the next one is, have you acted on those goals, right? So for instance, if you know the goals and you're taking the right steps and actions towards those things, again, if you know that you're doing basically what has been asked of you from an organizational standpoint, then you've acted on them, right? And so then as a result, there's no indication here that you're not in alignment, so therefore you are following the goal. So all this feedback or negative thoughts or things that people are saying about you, about your lack of performance or your lack of understanding or your lack of being able to work with others, is more likely indicative of the individual that you're interacting with, less rather than your skills and experiences. The next one is that you've requested feedback. So for instance, if you had an individual come to you and say, hey, this is really, I'm realizing that these things aren't really working out, or this is why we can't promote you, or this is why you can't do this or that, right? You are getting stuck and you can't move forward. And you've asked for feedback, like, okay, why is that? Or what do I need to do to move into management? Or what do I need to do to better meet expectations about my performance, right? And if they're able to give you really tangible feedback that's able to help you move forward, then that means, like, yeah, there are some things that you can do to move forward. Hey, Asteroid. Astria? Oh, that's different. And yeah, so then that means there are absolutely things that can help you move forward, right? But again, if they're not able to really give you like very tangible like actions or things that you can do to improve, no. Mm-mm. That's not it. That's not what we're doing. And then the next thing is here. So when you're thinking about those things, you have to start to think about like problem solving, right? So if you're having an issue and your supervisor is saying like, hey, I really expect this from you, they're providing you the guidance and your feedback, you have to start thinking about like, okay, hey, how am I going to solve this problem? What is the solution to fixing this, right? And one of the things that's always helpful is, a lot of times the individuals that are able to move up and grow, they're individuals that are really they're managing up, right? They're understanding the context, they're being proactive, they're driving things with solutions, they're making change, right? And so again, if you haven't really taken a problem solving solution to whatever the issues are that you have with your supervisor and really made a good effort to change those, I would say do that first, right? And then the last thing to define, like, is it you? Okay, is it you? Really, is it you? Does the other individual on the other side of the table have your best interests at heart? And a lot of times the supervisors that would provide me the most critical feedback just did not have my best interests at heart. The best leaders to me were individuals that I could have a really open conversation about, like, hey, let's do this differently. Let's see how we can revise this. What support do you need to get things done? Blah, 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 because they knew I was here to like do good things. They knew I was here to make an impact. And so they were very interested in supporting me, but also to see me grow. And leaders and organizations that do not have your best interests at heart are often going to take advantage of basically, beating you down, telling you you're not doing things right, all of these things in an effort to really, kind of control the narrative, control you, have you shrink, have you just kind of do as what's told. And I think those are really challenging ways, like just from a HR or a leadership standpoint, to really have people come to work and do their best work and really feel included and valued so that the organization can grow. So all of these things said, right? Again, I'm never here to like say like, oh, like, no, you're the problem. Like, no, you're not always the problem. You're usually not the problem. But if you feel like you may be the problem, like, here are some of the things that you can think about. But ultimately, if you are having this feeling where you're feeling like you're not, you're not being really well evaluated, you're not given a fair shot, they're really not interested in helping you grow or develop. Yeah, I think that's a sign that you should leave either way, right? Because even if there was something that you were doing in that environment and you didn't really feel like it aligned with you, like there are plenty of organizations that I could work for right now that would be a great place to work in terms of like what's generally helpful for people. But then also at the end of the day, like, does this align with my values? That is so important to me in human resources, to work for an organization that runs their HR department in a way that aligns with my values. Okay. So it doesn't always mean that there is some critical issue. A lot of times in toxic environments, if you feel like, it's draining you, you're having mental health challenges like I did, it usually means that there's something else going on there. But like, I want to be fair. Hey, Lydell, welcome into the live. But I want to be fair and just share, like, really, truly, if you're trying to evaluate, is it you or is it the organization? Those are the things that you need to go through. So if you just joined, all of the things I said to ask yourself are, have you understood the goals of the organization, the team, your leader, what the goals are for your role? Have you acted on those goals appropriately, like in alignment with expectations? Have you requested feedback or support? Have you taken time to problem solve or to resolve the issues that you have, whether that's with your manager in your role, accomplishing things? And does the other individual who's providing you this feedback that maybe is not being fair or equitable or really inclusive in the way that they lead or interact with you, do they have your best interest at heart? Okay, so those are all of the things to consider. But like I said, again, if you're having a hard time, if you're not being supported, might be time to get on out of there, girl. Okay. All right. This next one is pretty is pretty standard, right? Anti-DEI. And I want to say this, that, there are plenty of organizations that have never had a quote unquote DEI statement, that have, before DEI was a trend, that provided safe, inclusive, and warm environments. And there are plenty of organizations that have had a DEI statement that have not provided warm, inclusive, and safe work environments for Black women. And so I say all of this to say that we have to be much more particular about our discernment, how we are evaluating, screening, and reviewing our employers, particularly before we move in. So there's one thing that I have. It is a Black woman approved workplaces database. This is where I'm basically crowdsourcing information from other Black women who have worked in these types of environments. And I'm asking them to share their guidance or their feedback for which employers that they would recommend that other Black women work. So that's another thing, to be clear about that. But my stream from yesterday was essentially like learning how to really screen through and understand. Oh, sorry, that wasn't yesterday. That was the day before yesterday. Wednesday, I talked about how to screen toxic employers, particularly in an interview. What are you looking for? What are they saying? What are the red flags? These are the things that we have to begin to understand, more than just like what somebody's saying on paper or what's written on a website. I had one of the I shouldn't say like worst in terms of like treatment, but I mean worse in terms of like their explanation or understanding of DEI from an organization that had a very front and center DEI statement on their website. Okay, so these things aren't clear. And and they aren't clear based on words. So I need you all to start to think and to understand. So in practice, if you're in an organization that has shifted in their D&I, whether that's, publicly or not, it's time to start thinking, right? If you are in an environment where you see things that are just, it doesn't align with diversity, equity, and inclusion, then we really have to think about that, right? How are Black women being treated in the workplace? Are they being promoted? Are there resources and tools? And by resources and tools, I mean like mentoring programs, training. Is there growth and development opportunities, right? How do leaders interact with the Black women around them? Are there opportunities for Black women to have exposure to leadership? Are there groups like employee resource groups that are there for Black women? These types of things, when they're not in place, and when they're not abundantly clear about how Black women are growing and developing in an organization, that is a pretty clear sign that you are also going to have a hard time. Now, if you're like, okay, well, I'm here, it's not that bad. Yeah, well, totally fine. You always check it out, right? Sometimes organizations, they're small, or they're just trying to do things in a different place, a different way, and they're growing, right? Hey, Queen Kiera, I think. Welcome into the live. But like that is absolutely true. Like sometimes organizations are really trying to get it right, get it better, and figure it out. But ultimately, like if you're in that environment where you are the token Black woman and you're expected to speak out and you're, initially praised, and then eventually over time, like you're just not having a good time there. People are disrespecting you. People are leveraging stereotypes to attack you in the workplace. Okay. These are things that are absolutely over time going to negatively impact you, your mental health, but also your career trajectory, which goes into the first thing that I was saying at the beginning. Okay. So have you had, like, let me know in the comments, have you ever worked for an organization that said they were doing D&I, but like they really weren't? They really weren't. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And so my point here is, if you're in an environment where they're really not showing that they're inclusive, that they really value Black women, that they promote Black women, like, come on, boo, get out of there. I shouldn't even have to tell you this one. No, I'm just kidding. The last thing is the next thing is poor culture in leadership. So a lot of the times we will sit in a position because our goal will be to try and fix the issues, right? Like whether that's from like, oh, I really like this organization, or I really feel like, what they do is important. You really want to make the workplace a better place for other people. That's absolutely something that impacts me all the time. Being in human resources, right? Like, oh, I have things to do. I have, projects to do, blah, blah, blah. This is so important. But ultimately, we cannot resolve the things that leadership needs to resolve. And so if you're in a place where that poor leadership and the poor culture is actually impacting you, right? Like it's not positive. Maybe it's overly political. Maybe it's maybe they backstab each other in that organization. You feel like you can't trust people. These are the types of environments that over time are going to, one, negatively impact your self-confidence, negatively impact your mental, and hey, Keiki, welcome into the live. And there are things that are going to, again, impact your career trajectory. So again, another sign that it's time to get out of there. So now let's talk about, reasons why people stay. And if you have any questions for me, I see there's quite a few of you across platforms. So of course, let me know if you have any questions, but I'm super glad that you're here. And if you're enjoying the live, definitely like and share. This is super helpful for me getting the live out in front of more people. But I think I think ultimately why we stay a lot of the times in these types of environments is that we do have a scarcity mindset, and we're also fearful of what's kind of going out there in the market. And so I understand, I don't ever want to minimize like how challenging of a job market this is. In fact, next week, I think my stream is going to be talking all about like navigating a challenging job market. Because I think those are things that, navigating the toxic job, navigating a challenging job market is one of those things that, even if you do say, oh, it's time to go, I got to get out of here. Sometimes your interactions and your feelings and all that comes up while you're navigating those things, you're navigating that job market can really also like have you feeling like you're really not that skilled included in like how you're feeling at work and how you're treated at work. But ultimately at the end of the day, we really can't focus on all of the market, right? the fact of the matter is yes, the market is challenging, but there are still people moving, right? There are still people getting jobs right now. And so you're saying, okay, I'm just going to pause this because it's not going to be good. Like the longer you stay in this environment that's no longer serving you, the more it pulls down and eats at your self-confidence and your sense of self-worth. And also that impacts you how you show up in interviews, right? Like if you don't feel confident, it's going to show up in an interview, right? And honestly, I'm being honest as a recruiter, like your ability to show up confidently is way, 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 way more important in your interview a lot of the times than it is how and what you say. Yeah, it's sometimes people are more interested in like really connecting with who they're, interacting with, right? Instead of the other way around. Okay. The next thing, so before I go to that, actually, I think that's a key piece of like the scarcity mindset too, where we feel like there's not enough for us. And so we just choose not to do that. And so in the job market, it's like, oh, well, there's not enough careers out there. There's not enough jobs. There's not, if I go out and I only see 10 jobs, that means there's not enough. And it's like, well, maybe not. Like maybe one of those 10 jobs are for you, right? And so if you were to have a different way of looking at it and focusing on that as your focus, you probably would have a much different view or belief of the things that you do and how you're moving forward in your job search. Okay. The next one is to prove yourself. So a lot of times when we are in these environments where people are, demeaning the microaggressions, telling us that we're not enough, gaslighting us about our performance and what we're capable of doing or not capable of doing, a lot of times we feel like we have to prove ourselves in that type of environment, right? We have to, be the best, do the best, prove everybody wrong by, accomplishing everything and more. And honestly, it's kind of like when I think about it, it's really painful because it means like, okay, we are giving more of ourselves for somebody that doesn't believe in us. And I feel like that's a really painful, like mind, like that's a really painful, like logical piece to go through of thinking like, hey, if this is truly manipulative in the way that they're doing this, of trying to motivate you by saying that you're not enough, that's a really painful and I feel like really manipulative mindset to be in a career space. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like it's one of those things of like, the more that we try to prove ourselves, the more that we realize that we're insufficient in their minds. And then that continues to reinforce this idea that, again, we are not enough. And so I think in these environments, again, we're not going to prove ourselves to somebody that, again, doesn't have our best interests at mind, isn't wanting us to succeed, isn't wanting us to grow. I think it's better for us to use that energy elsewhere, right? And instead of trying to prove a point that really, it doesn't matter what we'll do. We'll just continue to have those challenges. The next one is loyalty. I don't know why this is, right? Because, we always sit here and we talk about like, oh, well, employers aren't loyal. They'll lay you off. They'll fire you. When you have one health scare or you have this and that. And it's like, that is true. For most employers. And so I think, that challenge of like, oh, well, they gave me this job or they were the first person to hire me in my field or whatever else. It's like the loyalty here is that as long as you keep providing a great space and environment for me to grow and advance, then I'll do the same for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand the loyalty in this space. Hey, Lorianne. And so in my humble opinion, I really think that we need to start creating spaces where we're always evaluating like, what is an organization doing for us? Is it truly beneficial for us and what we want? Is it something that's going to keep us moving and growing in our career? And if it's not, out of there. Okay. Out of there. The next one is clarity. So a lot of times we will stay just because we don't feel like we're where we're going next. One of the things that I always say, and I think is super helpful for that, is just to start to do things to discover new career paths or the next step. And so if you're somebody who, hey, Dana, welcome into the live. So if you're somebody who really, really likes what you do, then it just means that you're going to get clear about that next job in your career path, right? Are you going to go for a lateral move? Are you going to go for that next step? What is the job title? What is the function? And how can you really package your skills for that? I'm thinking next week, I'm actually going to start doing job search, more job search related functions, so that we can really talk about like, okay, what is the connection between this market, your resume, how you're branding yourself, and how you're moving through the application process, so that you can really like do that more efficiently. But yeah, so that would be that is, I think, something that I really want to do next week. But ultimately, really getting clear on where you want to go is going to allow you to really tailor and align your brand with where you want to go. And then I would also say in that, one of my favorite exercise is the Ikigai exercise. So if you're watching this, well, it's been reposted, but I do have a couple of videos on Ikigai on YouTube. I have a full video. There's actually an example with me going through, that's on LinkedIn too. But I have an example of me going through this entire exercise with one of my past clients. And I also teach this in my Career Love community. So if you're really in a space where you're like, hey, I really need support getting clear, figuring out what my next steps are, you can reach out and learn more about my community. Of course, you can go to my website and learn more if you have any questions. But I think clarity is often one of those really challenging things where a lot of times we overthink it, or we tell ourselves like, oh, that can't really be my career path or my field. And then as a result, we just never pursue the thing that we feel like we really want. And so sometimes clarity can be simple, is just listening to yourself. But again, if any of those exercises are helpful, you can try out Ikigai. You can also try out the Zone of Genius. And again, I'm teaching those things in my community. So if you want to join me, let me know in the comments. I'll share more information for how to join. Okay. And the last one is stability and comfort. So a lot of times when we're in these positions, we know this organization, we feel like we know the players. We're like, okay, well, even if they're toxic, we kind of know how they move. We know how they behave. Or, oh, I can't move on because it'll be less stable, particularly in this job market with layoffs, et cetera, right? Unfortunately, being in this market, and like, it doesn't matter how long you've been in an organization, I just at this point don't think anybody's job is safe. It wasn't really before, but it really isn't now. And like, comfort isn't going to allow you to experience something different, right? Like, my whole thing about Black Woman Bliss is to experience a world that's aligned with what we desire, what we want to do. And so if we're here and we're pursuing things, and it's not in alignment with what we really want, and we're stuck here because it's not exciting, it's not aligned, it's not what we want to see out of our lives, and then we're sitting here, it's due to us being fearful of change and fearful of growth. And those are things that ultimately hold us back from pursuing our purpose and our passion, and really being in our Black Woman Bliss era and enjoying what we do and feeling fulfilled by that, right? And so comfort and stability is often one of the biggest self-driven barriers that we have to increasing improving our careers and our businesses and changing our lifestyles and pursuing what we ultimately want to do. So with all of this, I just want to say, well, of course, let me know if you all have any questions, but I want to say, like, your discomfort is enough in a lot of these situations. So if you take nothing out of all of these kind of screening tools that I said, hey, whether it's time for you to leave or to go, I just want you to know that your discomfort is enough, right? If you're not comfortable, I don't mean comfort in a way of growth, like, okay, I'm doing something different and new. I mean discomfort with, how people are treating you in the workplace, discomfort with how you're being paid, discomfort. And I say discomfort because a lot of the times we will minimalize the experiences that we have. Like, we will be like, oh, it's really not that bad. It could be worse somewhere else. It's like, comfort is a bare minimum. Feeling safe where you are, feeling like others enjoy working with you is a bare minimum requirement that we should be looking at. We shouldn't be just being like, oh, well, at least they don't, cuss me out, or at least I'm not on a performance improvement plan, or at least this person is, at least a little bit better than my last job. It's like, no, we're not here for settling. We're here for being fulfilled. We're here to be filled up, to enjoy what we do, right? And so in that regard, yeah, your comfort is absolutely enough. Okay. I don't see any questions. So I will say here that if you're watching this video and you know that, like, hey, I'm really in this toxic environment, I don't know what to do next, I am really stressed. I'm really, 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 really stressed out. I'm going to share a little bit of, what I would recommend for exiting. And then, of course, any other questions that you have that pop up, I'll answer those. So one thing that I would say is that, again, clarity is often that big piece about moving forward. It could mean that you're unclear about whether this current career or field is the right place for you. It could be that you're unclear about whether or not you are truly experiencing what you are, like, the toxicity, the microaggressions, ways that you're being attacked personally or professionally in that workplace. And of course, it could be like, what are those next steps? And so whatever you're feeling, I would really suggest focusing on that first so that you can get clear, right? Which bucket are you really in? Is it really just driven based on your experiences here about why you should or should not exit? The other thing is really thinking about, like, okay, if I am going to stay in my field, what is that very next step? And if you're going to exit the field, how are you going to package your skills, and how are you going to move into that next role? And no matter what you pick, unless you're of course staying, but again, I think your discomfort is enough. Okay. Whether or not you're staying, I think one of the important things to think about is how you're going to choose to brand yourself in your next role, right? And so that's where those transferable skills come up. Those are where you need to say, like, hey, this is what I've got on my resume. This is what I've got going, on in terms of, so here's what's on my resume. Here's what I need to put on my next resume based on the skills and the experience. And I feel like a lot of the time, hey, Letitia, a lot of the times we do not evaluate those skill sets and see how they really align one-to-one. We just kind of repurpose our current resume, change a couple keywords and feel like it's good. And that is something that's not going to work in this job market. You really do have to think about branding. I mean, this is something that has been key for any job market, but particularly today, when people are really frustrated about not hearing back or not getting the right responses that they want. Okay. And then after that, really setting kind of a project plan out. So I feel like a lot of times we will, plan at work. We'll make all of the plans, all of the spreadsheets, all of the timelines, all of the deliverables, right? But we don't take time to really think about what we want and kind of creating a project plan for our lives. And so what I would recommend of, like, whether it's, okay, here's what I'm going to do to get my resume together. Here's my timeline for, when I'm going to apply to jobs, and here are my goals and my deliverables for myself, right? We just don't do those types of things. So I would absolutely encourage you to really get clear on, hey, what is it that what is it that in terms of timeline wise, time management is going to work for you of moving forward with your job search each week, and really just trying to figure out how do you really break that down and make sure that you're really moving forward in the way that you should be. Okay. So that's all of the things today. I was a little bit more brief and short than I usually am, but I was super excited to kind of talk about this because, again, I just think one of the biggest, detriments to our careers is often that we stay too long, particularly if we are being mistreated or we're, having poor performance evaluations or we're not being promoted in the workplace. So hopefully this helped you get a little bit more clear about, really where you should be going in your career, what you should be doing next. And all of that being said, if you enjoyed this content and you think you do want to make that exit, or you do want to build a business, I would encourage you to learn more and join me in my Career Love community. So I created a community. It's a private space for Black women who are working on their careers and businesses and want to do so in a safe, inclusive space of other Black women. So if you look below, it's like, hey, you can join this if you want all of these trainings and things like that. And you can kind of join me. So I'll share the QR code if you'd like to join now. The community is a monthly subscription. It starts at $29 a month. And if this sounds like something that you'd like to join, you can scan this QR code, or you can go to the link in my bio to sign up. I'm really excited about all of the beautiful Black women that we have in this space. And I think it's really exciting to see us come together and grow our careers and our businesses. I think, a really special space. So all of that being said, this is great. If you're watching this later and you have any questions, let me know. And if you're watching this now, let me know if you have any thoughts or questions or reflections on this. Like, are you going to do something next week that's different, right? Are you finally going to say, hey, I think it's time for me to leave? Are you going to, are you saying, hey, I do think I need to go through those questions and make sure that, I've done what I can do here before moving forward, or not? You're welcome, Monique. Yes, feeling safe mentally is a huge priority. One of the biggest signs, that's such a good point. One of the biggest signs that we have that things aren't right is that we don't really feel like emotionally safe in those environments. Like, we don't feel like we can speak up. We don't feel like we can share a thought that's not that doesn't compete with others or supervisors and things like that. I absolutely had a supervisor that would hate any time that I disagreed with her. And that was really painful because it's like, aren't we all working together? And also, don't you always have to say something about what I say? So it's really challenging. But yeah, you're so welcome. And I think, yeah, if you don't, again, that discomfort is enough. Like, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel like it's an environment that you can continue to grow and learn in a safe way, it ain't it. And also, if you're looking for a safe community to work on those things and kind of exit that job, I of course invite you to the Career Love community. But I hope this was helpful for you, Monique, and all the rest of the viewers. So yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. I hope you go do something fun. I was gonna go to the movies tonight, but they didn't really have anything showing at the time that I wanted to. So maybe I'm gonna go try and like listen to some live music and yeah, just enjoy, just try and enjoy life a little bit. But I'm super, super, super duper excited to continue on with these streams. And I'm so thankful for this time with you all. So I will see you next week. We're going to talk about all things job search. Okay.